And here we go. The only challenge with recording to the cloud is it records. I don't even know what it records. I know that when I record to my computer, I see what's on my screen. I'm not sure how it works on the cloud, if it records what I see on my screen or if it does the speaker, whoever's talking. Anyway, let's assume it does that. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the call, Aligning with Success. I'm your host, Mike DiMuccio, and you all know that. So what can we chat about tonight that will contribute something to your business? Before I do any of that, I want to congratulate everybody who was a participant and engaged in hosting the co-hosting Master Day. There was a lot of great content. It was a very well received meeting, and I want to ask you if you have any takeaways from that. If you have one or two takeaways that you got from that meeting, please share it here so that anybody who may have missed it might at least be able to get those takeaways. Anyone?
I would say something.
Please.
Everybody was excellent. Dennis Williams is always still really good. And he talked about a mindset that had to be developed when they started, where going silver, people got exactly the same as they get today. But in those days, it was 40,000 in 1 month, and then it changed to 20,000 in 1 month, and you had to have 3 seniors or something. And bronze in his day was 15,000. Such a mindset, I guess that's what I'm really getting at. How can we, in this climate, still cultivate that mindset of seriousness and urgency? That's my takeaway and question.
Okay, so it's a question. That's a good question worth answering, by the way, or at least attempting to answer, because the climate has definitely changed. Expectations have. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about how everything is based on expectations. We're talking about setting up an expectation to achieve Club KI, for instance.
Yeah.
And so many, as Nikan over the years lowered the expectation of what it takes to become a silver, that has had an effect, both positive and negative. In the short run, it was positive. It's like, hey, there's 50% discount on the waterfall. But if the expectation then is everybody who bought in at that level and it goes back to normal price, they turn around thinking in their mind, oh, the normal price is expensive. I paid for it at this level. It creates a certain mentality, certain expectation. And so I would not object. In fact, I would encourage, not that this is what's happening, but I would be the first to encourage raising the bar on silver, not lowering it. So well, let's come back to that, because that's a question I think everybody can sort of jump in on. What to do to create higher expectations, what to do to create bigger urgency and volumes that are appropriate that way. I have a thing that I am going to share today with respect to getting somebody started, which I think is a great little exercise. Lynn, you have your hand up. Your takeaway.
Sure. I definitely enjoyed the co-hosting both by Julie and Ruben. That was very much noticed. But one of my takeaways was different styles, including what Savannah showed, including other individuals like Dennis Williams, who's, galore experience. But what my takeaway was, everybody has their own style and possibly a choice, but I think you have to tailor it to your own personality, but yet the process or the method is the same. So that was very relevant in this presentation for me.
Cool. So basically then what it takes to build a business, to attract people, the principles, which, by the way, are often the principles we will find when we go to any of these books to study. For instance, Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire gives us the principles of the kind of the mental thinking. The GoPro by Eric Worre gives us the 7 steps, which are the basics of the business for prospecting and follow-up and so forth. Those don't change. Those are going to be maybe adapted to based on technology. So maybe once upon a time you would go and see somebody and do a meeting with them in a coffee shop or in an in-home. Now it's more, you're more inclined to maybe meet them online. The venue's changed, but the principle hasn't. Savannah was talking about social media, how she uses that as an exchange for attracting people, and what she does to expose the world that she's living in and the Nikan world to her audience to attract that dialogue. Maybe once upon a time we used to do ads in the newspaper or flyers on cars in parking lots or whatever it was that you did to get out there. Maybe the means has changed, but the principle hasn't. We still need to connect with people and get our message, our outreach methods going. But what you do bring to the business goes back to a few meetings ago when we talked about what is about you. Why would people join you? It's that unique aspect of yourself that you bring that makes you you. And that's the style, how you deliver the message, how you conduct yourself, the way you perceive yourself and the way you want others to perceive you. That's uniquely you. So even though we're in the same business, we have the same products, we have the same offering, it's the way in which we do what we do that makes us us. And that should always be encouraged, because, well, you want to learn and teach people how to be their best version of themselves, not to be their best version of somebody else. And so that means really being involved with who you are and being familiar with what makes you you. Madeline, you have your hand up. What's your takeaway?
My takeaway, I didn't come in until about 2 o'clock. I had a commitment in the morning, but listening, particularly to Dave's summary at the end, that what I like in the past 16 months is that the combination of the top experienced Royal Diamonds who built the business, along with the new stars, and that the business is the distribution network. And without the distribution network, so that all of the types and ages and styles and whatever are part of it. So we want the variety in our businesses so that you have the retailers and you have all the different styles to balance. But clearly what came out with this one was, whether it's over a span of time, whether it's digital versus picking up the telephone, just like everything that you mentioned now, but clearly I felt the theme and the summary was that this was successful business, and that is what was being presented. That what I came away with was how important it was to have a distribution network and what it really takes to have that distribution network. So I thought that it was very nice that there was edifying of all of those that had 30-some years of experience to Savannah, and that I liked.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Well, that means there was a good representation of all of the types of people that can make it and succeed.
Exactly. And the inter-rater reliability, that it was like, we need everybody and everybody's important, but the message was to create 10 million. I felt the message was, listening to it at the end, to create 10 million new people, new partners, new members, new customers, that it does create the distribution, that we need to create the distribution network. So it was done very tastefully, very professionally, very respectfully of everybody that was on that respect.
Awesome. Yeah. When I joined the business, retail wasn't a thing, and it was never really encouraged. That's not to say that we should go back to that. That's not the point. But what did take place was so powerful that we have a network today because of it. And the equivalent of that would be, it'd be great to have a lot of franchises, but if those franchises themselves aren't doing anything, what's the point? If all you're doing is opening up franchises, but none of them are actually making anything or serving the public in any way, then it's just a bunch of empty buildings. So, but you got to open up a lot of franchises if you want to get your product distributed widely. So what's the balance? The balance is, the goal is to create a distribution channel, but you still have to distribute something. So you learn both. You get to learn to put both oars in the water, and one being the retail side of the business and the other being the recruiting side. However, having said that, in my experience, the pendulum shifted. It swung way over to the other side. And now the lion's share of the volume in NECANN is retail, and not through recruiting, which is not the ideal. I mean, maybe for the FTC, it's the ideal, but it certainly isn't for the business model. So we've got to bring it back to center. We've got to make a case for the business, and recruiting people into the business as a business has got to become as important as any retail sale could be. In fact, my methodology has always been, I retail as a consequence of not sponsoring somebody. That's how I do retail.
Mike, to pick up on the other comment earlier of raising the bar, 40,000 in 1 month to 6,000 in 3 months. We're not only shifted too far in retailing, what we're retailing at 6,000 in 3 months are bracelets and nutritionals, not the big ticket items. If you look at the top 10 in North America, the sleep system isn't in there. It's nutritionals plus the waterfall and the cartridges.
And that
That's
reflects on incomes, right?
Yep.
Because our big ticket items are not being marketed as extensively as they used to be. So then that comes down to expectations again. We got to look at what are we actually doing here. Barbara, you have your hand up. What's your takeaway?
Well, I saw a common theme throughout everybody, Mike. Lynn mentioned different people having different styles, and that's very, very true. But the common theme, and I think it was when Barb Satterwhite did an entire presentation on relationshipping, that more and more people are emphasizing building relationships with the people. Now, if they don't join you as a customer or they don't join you as a business partner, you leave the door open because you've built a relationship with them. Maybe the time now, it's not the right time. But if you leave that door open, you don't know when they're going to come back to you. And I've had this happen by building that relationship, staying in touch periodically, even though they haven't become a customer or a consultant. They still want to be kept up to date on what you're doing, how you're doing, what new products come out. And in time, Ben says on one of his presentations, it takes between 8 and 12 connections before somebody may make that decision. And that's all part and parcel of the relationshipping process. But I saw that common theme throughout everybody's conversation. Susan Carver, Gail, Patricia, Dennis, everybody talked about connecting and building that trust and relationship with the prospect.
There you go. It's all about connections. So anyone else before we move on? Just what your takeaway from this weekend's Master Day. Linda.
Hi there, Mike. I just want to first say kudos to everybody on Saturday. It was just an outstanding job, from Savannah to Paul Gabius to you, Dave Rolfe. Everybody was just amazing. And my great takeaway, I shared this morning actually with Dave. Of course, Dennis Williams. I mean, he's the best at doing this, right? And this is what I really loved a lot. Our goal, and this is talking about both he and Ruth when they first joined way back in the dark ages, when it was 40,000 points for 2 months, if I remember that correctly. 40,000 points, so for 2 months. And I think back then you only had maybe 2 handfuls worth of products. So I'd like to know on another call how that even happened, because I find that a miracle unto itself. But anyhow, this is what I took away with from Dennis, one of them. Their goal was to create a situation where they had something to lose every time they got a new sponsor. So that I call it the FOMO, the fear of missing out. You want to create an incentive that once you're on this roller coaster ride, and it's really exciting for a while, it goes up and it goes down. Then some people, many people get off. But if you show people what they could be leaving on the table by not doing certain things, that gives you an incentive to work towards your goals. So it's a small thing, but to me, it was a pretty big thing. I really liked that one. And then I also liked, you shared about building a business. People, the people is the team. Teamwork is leverage. I really like that phrase from you. Demonstrate the social proof, that accountability, and the momentum to go to rank advancement. Once again, it's got to be an incentive. There has to be a goal of some sort that once you got skin in the game, you want to keep producing. Or otherwise you just peter out maybe at executive, which is okay. But if you really want to make a good income, 4,000 or 5,000 more a month, these were the things I think that keep people engaged, especially when you have the right leader and sponsor, someone like yourself. And then the third one was Brody Craney. He talked about the leadership and team building, and he started and ended with, are you going to lead with fear or faith? You have to faith, you're doing something you haven't done before, but you have faith in the person that's leading you. And you want to shift that fear a little bit, because there's going to be a little fear in everyone, but you want to shift that fear to faith that I'm doing something that has never been done before, and I can leave a legacy to my family or, to someone else. So I loved it all. It was just, when I think they can't do any better, they did an outstanding job. Your daughter was wonderful. Everybody was wonderful. So I know you're very proud, Papa, and we're proud of her too. So that was it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And yes, I am so proud. I didn't even know what she was going to cover. Then I saw it and I thought, wow. Yeah, they grow up so fast.
You did a good job, Mike.
Thank you. Well, that's a great recap, by the way. Thanks, Linda, of all the real salient points that everybody hit on. Yeah, so the success of everyone's business is dependent on what your expectations are, what your goals are, because how do you measure success but a reflection of your expectations? You consider yourself a success if you're meeting your expectations. And so what are those expectations? There's those that the company sets for us in the compensation plan. Then there's those that the company adds in the incentives program. And then there's whatever else you superimpose on top of that based on your understanding of what's possible for yourself. Now, we've gone through so many cycles in this business. We are in a new cycle. This is a new era for Nikan, because it's really about recapturing our momentum, essentially. If we look to the south of the border, south of into Mexico and Latin America, they are in momentum. This is an organization that is in momentum. And when you're in momentum, you pretty much can't do anything wrong. It's an exciting time because the vibe is there. It's that knowing that when people come to a meeting or they come to a call, they get a sense, they get a vibe. It's that sixth sense, that unspoken energy, because everybody's really excited all at the same time because things are happening. They're experiencing things happening. And when you have a call like a master day or whatever they call it in Latin America, you don't have 100 or 200 people. You got like 500, 600, 700 people on that call. And so, if you've got a guest or something and they're seeing the numbers too, and they're saying, wow, this seems to be a going concern, a real happening thing. So for us to achieve 10 million, Latin America is already, they're on their path. We are going to contribute to that 10 million based on what your expectation is. Now, I have Leo here on the call. His expectation is to celebrate in Hawaii as a new diamond. Now, for him to do that, he can't do it alone. He has to create momentum. in his organization, not just himself, but there has to be a movement. That's momentum is a movement. And in order for us to create a movement or some kind of momentum, everybody's got to be focused on some type of an objective, something that gets the engine started, gets people moving. So I'm going to be offering an incentive for the Canadian marketplace in my organization come May to see if I can put some gas on the fire and help get that engine really ramped up. I'm going to be, we already have fuel, but I'm going to put the afterburner fuel, the kind that goes. So maybe you should start thinking about that, what you can do to create some excitement and some momentum in your own team. Mikhail, you have a comment, question?
Well, maybe we had a little peek before May, just
No.
us tonight.
But I can tell you
Oh,
this.
no, come on.
It will be all about adding members to your team, because that right now, as far as I'm concerned, has got to become the prime directive. Niken has already told us the goal is 10 million new active wellness members. That doesn't mean 10 million customers. It means active wellness members. So they're active. They're not just consumers. They're active. They're engaged. They're helping us spread the word. So as far as I'm concerned, that means 10 million people in my downline. Some of you can have some in your downline too, but I'm looking for 10 million to be added to my downline. So what I suggest you do is have some kind of a fixation on the idea that you're going to contribute to those numbers by building an organization of your own or adding to your organization. So how you create movement and momentum, how if we even go back to when Latin America started up their momentum, or when we did our first momentum swing, what was it that generated momentum? It was a number of people with huge expectations, with really big expectations, led the pack. And then from those expectations came creative input. So a number of other members joined that conversation and started to put creative input, which started to organize, how are we going to achieve these things? What do we need to do to simplify the system, the process, the mechanisms for people to be enrolled, for people to join and so forth, so that there was less thinking and more activity. And so coming back to the question, when somebody mentioned, how did you do that? How did you get those kind of numbers with so few products? We sold business packs. It was called a business pack. It was $700, I remember. It was called a business pack. And then Niken came out with the career pack, which was $1,000. So we sold a career pack and a demo pack, or I guess they turned it into a demo pack. And that combination made somebody senior. At that time, it was called senior, and now we call it executive. And that was what we expected somebody to do if they were serious about the business. You get your demo pack and your career pack. And everybody everywhere said that. So you didn't hear it from somebody once in a while. It was everywhere. Every time anybody participated in any type of Niken event, that's what you talked about. I got my demo pack and my career pack. Got my demo pack. Did you get your demo pack and your career pack? When are you getting your demo pack and your career pack? It was just what we talked about. We created an expectation. Now, this brings me to a story where I was in Montreal interviewing a fellow who didn't even have the money to register for Niken. But he heard, you got to get your demo pack and your career pack. That's the very least you need to do if you're serious. And I said, and there's even more than that. There's what we call the senior plus, and then we had the executive package, which was about 5,000 points. So we created a good, better, best, and the good was 1,500 points. The better was around 3,000 points, and the best was around 5,000 points. And so based on those expectations that we created, not Niken, we would present Niken as an opportunity. And by the way, that person, as I said, had no money to even register, but they had all the desire in the world, because what they saw was a real commitment to success. What they heard from me was that they could succeed if they were willing to do what it takes. And one of the things that they had to be willing to do was invest in their business. Well, I never saw that person for months. And then I got a phone call and it was that person, and they had all the money they needed to get started the business and even put a down payment on a car. So what was my expectation? My expectation was to help this person succeed. They needed to set a standard for themselves and their business in order for them to duplicate. Otherwise, what would they be duplicating? And then the whole business is about duplicating. What would they be duplicating? Right now, we've got people buying a sport bottle to get in the business. That's not a business. That's a lottery ticket. So we need to help people understand the ethics of business. If you're in it to win it, don't treat it like a hobby. So what does a hobby look like? You do it whenever it's convenient. A business, you do it every day with consistency, regardless of how you feel. So there's a difference in the way we're approaching things. We've become too eager to attract anybody, which has lowered the level of expectation rather than attract people and bring them into a higher level of expectation, which in turn increases their performance, increases their productivity, increases their results. And so you start to build success upon success rather than reduce it to the ridiculous where nobody's experiencing success because it's just the expectation's not there. They're playing with it. So we've really got to all together get on the same page with what is it that you expect somebody to do when they get started in the business if they're going to get your time and attention. Is your time and attention worth something? What do you need them to do to measure up? And if you don't have anybody on your team, you're probably thinking, I'll take anybody. No, you won't, because they will take your time and your attention for a long period of time, take you on an emotional roller coaster. And then when they quit, which they invariably will, you'll be all depressed and down about it. And then you won't be very effective to sponsor the next person. We got to get really good at what we do and raise the bar in terms of expectations. Madeline, you have your hand up?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to add, I was listening to Leo on that 500. When we sponsored everybody, especially with those 21 clubs, with the career pack and the demo pack, the third expectation was $100 of auto ship. So when you sponsored 5 people and they all had $100 of auto ship and you had $100 of auto ship, and if they just each sponsored one more, you qualified as a silver, even if the next month, if they didn't sponsor their next person the next month, when you added up all of those $100 of auto ship and you sponsored 21 people, you always had $2,100 of auto ship. Well, then you sorted for the ones that were ready to go silver and ready to go gold. So those qualifying 500 little hubs were happening with some of the people that if something came up and they weren't ready, if you had enough people in the pipeline, and Barb, I've been spending a lot of time with Barb Satterwhite. She has so many in the pipeline, just like Leola May, that with her, the relationshiping is that if they don't, the go with the flow is okay because she has enough others. So if they do come in with an auto ship that's less than 100, they're on the auto ship. So that's why she gets the MPV award all the time while she's continuing with the numbers. But that other expectation of being a product of the product, of the auto ship as well, wellness subscription, the wellness subscription now.
Okay, so let me talk about that for a second. That comment and everything related to what you were just saying right now begs for an understanding of how that matters. Because a person doesn't want to get into a business where it's an endless cycle of I'm buying stuff, I'm paying for stuff.
Using it, buying
Yes.
it, using it, being the example.
My point is there must be a business argument for that, not just a you should. There needs to be an actual proper presentation. So one of the things that you guys probably noticed, we don't actually have such a presentation. And the first time I put it on, here it is. First time I put it on paper, I was told, oh, you can't really do that because you're showing the numbers. And I don't know if you can see that, but you see income. And that's like, the FTC is all over that. You can't show projections and stuff like that. And so we're at an age right now where everybody's kind of got their hands tied behind their back and they don't know, like take vitamin D is going to be helpful to your health. Nobody's allowing them to say these things. Of course, we're living in a time of basically people not being allowed to speak freely and tell people like it is. But getting back to the concept of expectation and showing this as a plan, the calls that I'm having when I'm asked to show a plan, I'm asking for what's the income expectation in terms of residual income. Because once I know what that number is, I can calculate what the volume is. Once you know what the volume is, you can figure out how many silvers do they need to do that volume. And now you're creating an argument for creating silvers. Well, who's the first person on your team that ought to go silver? Well, of course they say they are. Exactly. So that's got to become our focus for the next 30 to 90 days. So you're boiling down their goals, what they really want, down into what it is that they need to do for themselves to get this thing off the ground. And then what you can formulate is, okay, what does that look like day to day? What does that mean on the day to day? What am I doing day to day to ensure that I'm hitting those results, those numbers? And so that's a business plan. You're helping people formulate a business plan. I think it's really important that if we're going to help people see the value of this as a business, we got to help them create a business plan. And you want to help do that yourself. So have you got a business plan for yourself? Have you broken down the numbers? Let me give an example of the calculation, just so we're clear. Let's say the goal is, let's make it simple, $1,000. $1,000 a month passive income. That means money that's coming in from your 6%. Okay. Now, for $1,000 a month, that's based on 6% of the CV. So we have to first figure out what's the CV. So you take that 1,000 and you divide it by 0.06, which represents 6%, because guess what? Whatever that number is times 0.06 is going to be 1,000. So 1,000 divided by 0.06 is 16,666. So basically 16,700 CV. Well, we don't see CV anywhere in our reports, do we? We ought to, Nikan, but what do we see? PV. So how do we calculate the PV? When it's a fluctuating thing, it depends on, is the special on, is it depends on the product. So what I do is I take an average number. I say 60% of the PV is CV. That's the number I use. So that means I've got to take that 16,700 and divide it by 60%, which means I divide it by 0.6. So take 16,700, divide it by 0.6, and I got 27,700. Let's round it off to 30,000. So I've got to generate 30,000 a month in PV to have $1,000 a month in cash as residual income. That 30,000's got to come from an organization. Well, what size of organization is that? 30,000 a month.
A platinum.
It's a platinum. So now I can relate the money to a rank. Platinum. Then I gotta say, okay, well, Nikan tells us what we need to do to get platinum. We need to have at least 2 other legs doing volume, right? So we're talking $30,000 or 30,000 points, excuse me, per month. Now, you know, if you're doing 30,000 points per month, you're going to make more than 1,000. Because that's just your 6%. And you know, you make on average about 10% of your PGV. Have you figured that out? You make on average around 10% of your PGV. So if you're doing, I don't know, 2,000 in PGV, you're making about $200. You're doing 4,000, you're making about $400. You're doing 5,000, you make about $500 in addition to your 6%. And what do we need to do in order to get our 6%? What's the minimum we have to do to get our 6% as a silver and above?
4,000 for the silver.
1,500 PGV. We have to do at least 1,500 PGV to get paid as a silver because our downline doing that. So if we've got 30,000 in organizational volume and 1,500 in PGV, right? How many silvers is that? 30,000 divided by 1,500. That's about 20. So we've got to start growing an organization of silvers, which means we need to go silver and help others go silver. Now, do we sponsor all the 20 ourselves? No. What if we did 3 and we help them do 3? That'd be 9 on the second level. That's 12. We help them do 2. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 and 9, 10, 30. There we go. We got our number. We've got our, let's see, how many is that? 9 and 10, 13 and 18 is 31. So there you got 1 U, 3 second level, 9 third level, 18. Wait, 1 U first level 1. Then to your first level is 3. Then your second level is 9. Then your third level is 18. When you've done that, you've got an organization that's generating a passive income of minimally $1,000 a month to you if they were doing the minimum of what it takes to qualify. So what do I do now? How do I go about creating that? Well, I got to start with me. So now the focus is, okay, so silver is you. Let's get you done, and then we're going to teach others how to do what you did. So it's always easier to explain that to somebody. I'm going to show you how to do something, and then you're going to teach the people that you've attracted to do what I just showed you how to do. Can you do that? Can you teach people how to do what you've done? Yeah. So let's look at, what do I need to do to become a silver? Well, the compensation plan says I need to have 6,000 points scattered out over 3 months. We can do it in less than that. And I need to have at least 2 other legs doing some volume. Let's make it 3 to be sure. There's our 3 legs. So now let's work that back. In order to do 6,000 points, everybody needs to sell some products. How much? Sell and or purchase. Well, let's set a standard. What's the standard we're going to ask people to buy? Now, I'm going to give you a quick story because I think I've done this before. Linda Proctor, good friend of the Nikan family, when she first met Bob Proctor, who became her husband, she met him when she was selling insurance. And I think she said she was making about 20 or 30,000, I think, tops, selling insurance per year.
24,000 a year.
24,000. So it wasn't a lot. Then she was taught by Bob Proctor at a seminar to do 2 things. He said, if you do these 2 things, I promise you, your business will explode. Number 1, you need to be in front of somebody at 9 o'clock every morning. And number 2, you have to ask everybody you see to buy a $100,000 insurance policy. Now, they don't have to buy, but you have to ask. That was the number 1 and number 2 thing. The next year, she earned $495,000. So the person didn't change. What changed was expectation, what they were doing. They expected that they would have to be in front of somebody every day at 9 a.m. and they expected that they would ask everybody a minimum purchase. That set up the system of success. So in this business, what's the expectation? What do you expect people to do when they join? I expect them to buy a pack. That's what I expect them to do. And I explain to them why they should. I tell them the stories I just told you. 1 is good, 2 is better, 3 is best. And so when they don't do what is recommended, they're setting themselves up not to succeed. So that's a clue to you as to kind of time you should have in terms of expectations with somebody. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because if you don't realize that sooner than later, they will be happy to gobble up your time. And you need to be investing time in people who are going to do what it takes, not investing time in people who will experiment with you. So my success in Nikan was because I did not fail to sponsor more people than I needed. My success came because I had so many people that I was sponsoring that I let the law of numbers, the law of attrition, the law of nature, human nature, to live, to be there. I expected it, and I played to win. So let's say, for instance, I tell you, there's a 1 in 3 chance you're going to win the prize. How many times you want to roll the dice? Well, if you want to win, you got to roll it 3 times. Not once. So if you want to play to win, you got to know the rules. And so I tell people there's a thing called the rule of thirds. 1/3 of the people that join you in a given period of time will do what they say. 1/3 will be very moderate and 1/3 won't. They just simply won't. I don't know which third anybody's going to fall into, but I just know those are the numbers. So if I want a bulletproof success, I need to make sure I do the numbers. So the people who are succeeding on this call, the ones who are hitting all the bonuses and the prizes and so forth, they're doing the numbers. It's just that simple. Rather than sponsoring one person and that person becoming the lifeline of the sponsor, it's just a person. 10 million people is a lot of people. If we're going to spend all our time with one person because we think that's the next superstar, we're kidding ourselves. We don't know that. They don't know that. So how do you bulletproof your success? You have enough people doing that some will succeed by virtue of their own operating system. But what happens is when you gather all these people together, they feed off each other, like I was talking about on the call, the teamwork, the momentum. When you see other people in the room, it brings confidence. You don't know who's doing what. But when you see other people in the room, it instills confidence. So building a team is really, really critical to building momentum. And how do you build a team? How does the team know the team exists? There has to be some kind of a meeting. Teams meet. They play. They meet. They play. They meet. They meet. They play. They play. They meet. They meet. They play. You see a team because they're always together. So you've got to create that environment. I'm sort of a little bit ahead of myself here, but essentially, when you show somebody that their income boils down to generating people on their team, then the focus then becomes, how quickly do you want this team? How about we focus on the next 30 to 90 days to put your team together? Not the next 3 to 6 years, the next 30 to 90 days. You can have enough of a team in the next 30 to 90 days that you could set yourself up for life. I did. There's no excuse for it. Anybody can. But I didn't treat this like a hobby. I sponsored 26 people my first month, 9 my second month. Is that a hobby? Does that look like somebody who's treating this like a hobby? Or does that look like somebody who knows this can make them a millionaire and acts like it? So how would you like to find somebody who believes this can make them a millionaire and starts acting like it? Well, guess what? The key to that exercise, the absolute key to that exercise, are you ready for the key? The absolute key to that exercise is to get them on an ABC with a millionaire in Nikan. Don't screw around. Don't waste any time. If you want to impress upon somebody the possibility of this business, put them in touch with somebody who's made $1 million or more in Nikan. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it any better than that. That's the truth. The truth is, if you don't have the consciousness for it yet, you've got to leverage. That's what the ABC is. And if you want people who will do what it takes and start acting like somebody who can actually achieve that, you've got to put them in front of people who have achieved it. They need to see, they need to feel the energy, the vibration, the confidence that somebody who knows can deliver. So leverage. That's what I did. My very, very first appointment with a multimillionaire, I did what I did to razzmatazz them into interest. And then I got him on a phone call with my upline, and the rest is history. So the ABC with people who have the experience is critical. So start getting us millionaires on the phone with people, because we're going to do that. We're going to give them enough of our confidence and instill in them the assurance that this is the business, this is the potential, and they will then start acting like it, and then you'll start experiencing it for yourself. Everything is a reflection of your mind. Every single result you're getting in your life is a reflection of your mind, not mine, yours. I get the results I get because of the reflection. It's a reflection of my mind. I knew I would be a millionaire. I didn't know it was going to be Niken, but I knew it was going to be something because I knew that about me. Now, it's not about the $1 million. It's the concept. It's the consciousness. It's the abundance thinking. That's the key. And I can tell you right now, if you're not leveraging the ABC, you're not going to identify quickly the people who are going to be impressed by that or moved by that. And so you're going to be dealing with people who are still in grade school or still in kindergarten, when you want to be running with people who are at least university grads, people who have at least got enough understanding of life that this is really the ticket. This can be the ticket for them, and they'll start treating this that way. So everything I'm talking about right now relates to expectations around attracting people and working with people who want more of life. And yeah, you're going to have to find out. You're going to find out. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to ask you. I'm just going to ask you. What is the demographic of somebody who is really ready to do what it takes? Give me profiles. Tell me one or two key profile elements about somebody who's going to really do what it takes. I mean, they don't mind disrupting their calendar. They are going to put Niken on the front burner, not the side burner or the back burner. What kind of person is that? Give me a profile so we can sort of create a target audience. As Savannah was talking about, you need to have a target audience when you're talking to people about the products. Well, you need to have a target audience when you're looking to attract movers and shakers. Go ahead, Paul.
They have to be hungry.
Hungry.
For something different.
Define hungry.
They have to want some change in their life in one of those pillars. And they have to not just want it, but they have to be prepared to work to make it change.
And how would you identify somebody like that?
I suppose I could, you feel it if you ask them questions, and how much do you want it? And
where would you go to ask that question? Where do you find this person?
That's a really good question. I don't know until I ask a few questions. They could be found maybe anywhere. I mean, I don't know. Is there some particular? It's not going to be university.
But I know if I put a hook in the water and I'm fishing,
Yeah.
I got to put the bait on the end of the hook that's going to catch the fish that I'm looking to catch.
Yeah.
So what's the bait for somebody like that?
I would say, income, I guess, but I don't know. It wasn't necessarily income, purpose, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but let me ask you something. Would Bruce be Bruce without Bo?
No.
Bo was the key.
He was the key. Yeah, Bo needed income fast.
Bo was hungry.
He was hungry.
And Bruce was a connector.
So
Bruce was a
asking the
connector.
person, who do
Bo
they
was
know?
hungry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
asking
Yeah.
them who they know, asking them for their help. You've talked about that enough times. So you're asking somebody what you're looking for, how hungry you are, and so you're asking them.
I mean,
So
Mark,
think about it. If you
yeah.
started adding this conversation to your recruiting conversations about, hey, just do me a favor. I want to get a sense about where you are and what I can actually offer you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I am as hungry can be, where would you say you are? Man, that's a fair question to ask before you invest a whole lot of time and energy in somebody. See, you're either going to attract what you have been attracting, or you're going to
Yes.
start attracting people who really aim for the stars. The question is, when do you want to start attracting these people?
Now.
Okay, so you got to put the bait on the end of the hook.
Yes.
You got to have those conversations. We've got to flush it out. We got to say to people, I'm looking for people who are really hungry for change. May not be you, but you probably know some. Let's think about that. Who comes to mind? If you spent your entire next month of May, and that's all you asked, the only thing you thought about was not selling a product, but was in fact looking for a hungry person. Do you think you might actually come up with a few hungry people by the end of May?
Yes.
I'm guessing you will.
Like
Now-
I asked two people that, I have to tell you this, I asked two people that tonight at a funeral home. And one has already texted me and the other one, we're going to have lunch. I said, well, this isn't quite the right place. No, I'm interested. And so, I got a business card and a text. And I didn't say anymore. Aren't you proud of me? Come on, clap.
Yes, absolutely. Less is more. But think about it. Maybe listen, if my girls were on the call right now, they'd be schooling me on how to properly address their audience with what I'm talking about. I'm too crass, I'm too direct, I'm too whatever,
No, it's
right? I'm
good.
too alpha male for their audience, but I'm actually also right on point. So I don't care how you massage this into your language. The point is, unless we're attracting people who are really hungry for something in those 5 pillars, then Nikan is always going to be a passing thing. It's always going to be a thing of convenience. And believe me, it's not convenient. Being on these calls, making calls, having to listen to people, yada, yada, yada. It's not a matter of convenience. If that's what you're looking for, this is not the business for you. So you have to be able to offer the prize, but demonstrate how the prize is not only worth it, but how you can achieve it. And why do you suppose in life there are so few people out of the populace who actually ever achieve the high status? Do you think it's for lack of opportunity? God, no. It's never about the lack of opportunity. They're just not hungry enough, not disciplined enough, not willing to do what it takes. That's not for you and me to decide. But I'm telling you right now, time is short. Life is too short. And I don't have time to waste on people who've got nothing but time to waste. I love everybody, but I don't work with everybody. I
That's
want to
what
work with
had
the
my-
people who are hungry.
That's what I had my hand up on before. And that the thing that you didn't mention earlier was you qualify those qualifications across the top of your millionaires list. So it's not just the 6 you sponsored, but you pre-qualified who you were going to take to the ABC. So which C is going to go, that pre-qualification, because you're not going to work with everybody. So you see enough people to pre-qualify to take the right person is the C to the right millionaire A. I didn't hear you emphasize that as much in what
I
you
think
were
that's
saying
true.
earlier.
I think that's true. You want to connect. Well, the A that I'm suggesting you connect people to are the ones that you're going to now start attracting some hungry people. You're going to have to
Yes.
demonstrate that they can actually get what they want. So if they name a number, and if that number is big, you're going to have to put them in touch with somebody who can look at that number and say, totally doable when you want to get started.
But your confidence in your decision, and you knew what you were going to do, and your expectation also went along with pre-qualifying those people.
I'm
You-
telling you though, Madeline, all of that came because I happened to be running with a pack who had those expectations,
Yes. Oh, no, I
who
agree.
had that ambition, who had that hunger. If I wasn't running, and believe me, there were others in Nikan at the time that were not that hungry, and they're obscure. Their names are not they're not prominent in Nikan because they just didn't run with the pack. So it's about creating momentum. Momentum is about creating a pack and having that pack pointed in the right direction. I see Paul's hand up and Linda's hand up.
Yeah, I guess my hand is still up, but I was just thinking, when Bruce said to you, okay, kid, show me what you got. Like you were ready for that. I mean, I can hear him say that too.
Yeah.
You were what, 26 with a ponytail, and I can hear him say it, but you were ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was hungry, believe me. And there's people out there that are, and there's people out there that aren't. You can spend your time trying to help people become hungry by salting their oats, as they say. You can spend your time helping to develop leaders and develop leadership qualities. And that's a beautiful project. But when you can afford to do that, I would suggest you do that. Meantime, don't do that. Go and find people who are already skilled. Find people who are already motivated and ambitious, but more than anything, frustrated because they cannot realize their potential where they're at. They're hungry. And then show them this, but show it to them in a way that is baited correctly, that can appeal to what it is they want, and then validate that by putting them in front of somebody who can with 100% confidence say, if you want it, you can have it, and I can show you how to get it. Now, can you imagine if the month of May, that was the project for this group on this call, that we were going to assemble whoever we found by the end of the month onto this call and introduce the pack to each other and say, now you're ready to meet the gang. And if that was, think about it, who would you have to be attracting? How would you attract them? Who would you approach? How would that change? Linda. Linda, your hand's up. You're muted. Hello, Linda. Well, Linda, if you can hear me, just jump in when you get yourself unmuted. Okay, so I was going to say, and I've got very little time. Here's a strategy that I have in my book. I don't know what page it's going to be in your copy of it. For me, it's on page 244. Actually, 245. Linda, you had a comment?
Yes, real quick. I'm going to do a quick quote from Les Brown. You got to be hungry, not just hungry.
You got to
You
be
have
hungry.
to want this so much that you're willing to change your lifestyle, turn off TV, the ball games, the stuff that we waste our time with. You've got to be willing to do that so we can get to where you were. You weren't hungry, Mike. You were hungry. And that's what we're looking for. We don't want a person that's just interested or this is interesting. You want them to really almost be like that dog with the meat in his mouth. That's what we're looking for. I'm a former corporate HR person, and I'm looking at this, like you said many months ago, we need to look at this like a job. Most of us know 9 to 5. We need to look at this like 9 to 5. If you're going to have your job and this is a job you want and you're a headhunter, who are you looking for when you come across that desk and you get interviewed by the head whoever that may or may not give you this 90-day probation? So I look at this like we're looking for people for 90-day probation. As Ruth would say, we find them and wind them and see who runs.
Yeah.
And so from that, doesn't matter what they say, it's what they do. Like Lisa would say, oh, what is her name? The great, the great entrepreneur person. She said she doesn't listen to what people say. You look at what the feet do. What are you doing? Not what are you saying? People will say all sorts of stuff. Of course they will. They're excited for the moment. But you're looking for that small group, like Gideon's Army. You're looking for that small group that really is like, I'm ready to do. I'm putting down the gauntlet and I'm putting away all the other stuff I did for the, whatever I was going to do, I'm putting that aside because I'm going to invest the time in this. That's who you're looking for. That's who we're all looking for.
I'm going to talk about, that's exactly right. I'm going to end on that note because I do have something I can share with you next week about how to initiate some action with somebody who's that right somebody. We'll call it a pack call, and I'll get into it next week. It's on page 245 of my book. But let's just wrap this part up, this whole concept up. If we're going to attract 10 million new active wellness members in the next 3 years, it's not going to be going the way we're going. That would be foolish to even believe that was what was going to happen. No, that's not how it's going to happen. It's going to happen because some wave sweeps through this organization and somehow shakes loose whatever the cobwebs are and stimulates you to a level of performance that you haven't done in years, maybe decades, where you start to recognize, I am a contributor to those 10 million. I am going to be a major force in attracting those 10 million new people. So I need to act like a person who's really got a mission, who really has an important role to play, and start looking for the people who can contribute to that vision, not people who I have to drag around and convince of anything. If I got to convince you that you need wellness, you're an idiot. And I'm an idiot for trying to convince you. At this day and age in the history of this planet, if you need to be convinced you need wellness, you've been asleep far too long, and you're not worth the time and attention for this moment in time where we need to gather the flock. We need to gather the people who are anxiously waiting for us to appear, who are praying on a daily basis for something like this to show up, who wonder if there's anybody else out there like them. We're not the majority. Stop thinking about us as the majority. We're not trying to convince the majority. We don't need to convince the majority. It doesn't work that way. What changes the world is a small group of people coming together and making something happen that sweeps the world, because what we create as a solution makes the past obsolete. So that's what we need to do. We need to find our tribe. They're already out there. They're already wound up. They're just waiting for the vehicle to unwind, to let loose and to go. And so stop playing the role of being the convincer. Don't convince anybody. Be the finder. Marty Jeffrey taught me there's finders, there's minders, and there's grinders. Which one do you want to be? Who do you think makes all the money? Be the finder. Be the finder. I'm having this conversation with you guys because you're more advanced. You've been in this game long enough that I can have this conversation with you. If you were brand new on the call right now, I would have scared the living daylights out of you. But if you're somebody who's been around a while and you know, and you've been part of the past, you know what made this thing really rock and roll when it rocked and roll is it was led by a pack, and that pack were a pack of finders. They were not a pack of minders or grinders. They had a mission to achieve, a mission to accomplish, something to make of themselves, something to make of this company, something, they had something to achieve, and it wasn't a monthly objective. It was a big picture. And they did the things on a daily and monthly basis that were just automatically aligned with that big picture. Hitting the numbers of 40,000 don't happen because you're trying to meet your qualifications for contest. They happen because you're going after this thing like it matters.
The hungry won't be scared.
No. So I'll say one more thing that Dennis Williams would say. If you're not that one, find one who is. So they're out there. Let's go find them. They're already out there. All right, everybody.
Quick
Thanks.
question
go
for you,
ahead.
Mike. Next Monday is kickoff. So are you not having a class?
No, if next Monday's kickoff,
Very good.
I'm always usurped by kickoff. So
I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
thanks for pointing that out. So the next Monday after that, so I'll see you on the kickoff.
Great
And,
call, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.